What happens when a CEO walks into his own car wash and gets told luxury cars cost double just because they can afford it? Harvey still stared at the customer service complaint email on his laptop, lips tight. He'd been getting more and more of these the past few months, people saying staff were rude, wait times were long, prices didn't match the website. His company used to run clean. His father built it from scratch back in the 80s, and when he passed it on, Harvey promised to keep it grounded in honest work. 14 car wash locations now. All full service, all profitable. Or so the reports said, but something didn't sit right anymore. He pushed his chair back and stood, rubbing his jaw. His district managers always had an excuse. We're short-staffed. The customer was exaggerating. We're training someone new. None of it sounded like the place he grew up in, so he made a decision. He wasn't going to send another email. He wasn't going to schedule another meeting. He was going to find out for himself. Harvey called his assistant, told her to clear his calendar for the week. He created a fake name, Rick, and ordered a burner phone. He got a second-hand Honda Civic, threw on a pair of thick-rimmed glasses, overgreased his hair, and wore old jeans and a faded polo. It was a good enough disguise that even his own cousin wouldn't recognize him. Besides, most of the employees had never met him. The company had grown fast in the last 5 years, and he'd spent more time with lawyers and accountants than the people scrubbing windows or vacuuming floors. He picked location number 9. It was in the middle of the city, high traffic, high income area. The place had been getting the most complaints lately. The manager there, a guy named Dustin, had only been with them a year. Harvey had never spoken to him directly. He walked in on a Thursday morning just after opening. There were already 3 cars in line. Inside, the air smelled like tire cleaner and lemon-scented air freshener. A young woman at the front counter glanced at him. "You here to apply?" "Yeah," Harvey said, voice a little deeper than usual. "Saw the ad online, said you needed staff fast." She nodded. "We do. Been down 2 guys for weeks. Dustin's been losing it. I'll grab him." A minute later, a tall man with a buzz cut and a tight jaw came out from the back. "You the new guy?" "Yes, sir, Rick Hammond." Dustin barely looked at him. "Whatever, you got work boots?" "I do." "Good. You'll be shadowing Terrell today. He's out back working on the vacuums. Don't slow him down." Harvey nodded and followed instructions. Terrell turned out to be a solid guy in his early 30s with a quiet voice and a strong back. He didn't ask many questions, just showed Harvey how to check the vac hoses, spray the tires, wipe the dashboards. They worked side by side for 4 hours. By noon, Harvey's shirt was soaked in sweat. His back hurt, but the work wasn't what bothered him. It was what he saw near the cashier window. A tall, sharp-dressed employee named Trent handled payments. He greeted customers, typed in their order, and handed them receipts. Harmless enough until Harvey noticed something strange. A silver Mercedes pulled up. Trent smiled wide, leaned toward the driver. "Luxury detail, right?" "That's gonna be $80 today." Harvey frowned. The luxury detail package was listed at $45 on the company website. The man in the Mercedes didn't argue, just handed over a credit card. 10 minutes later, a battered minivan came through. "Basic clean." "That's $25, Trent said flatly. Harvey narrowed his eyes. 2 more cars. A Porsche, a BMW, both charged more than double the listed rate. No explanation, no special services. Trent pocketed cash more than once. Harvey turned to Terrell. "Hey, does that guy always run the register?" Terrell glanced over. "Yeah, Dustin trusts him. Been here longer than most." "Why?" "Just wondering," Harvey muttered. That afternoon, Harvey stayed late, pretended to scrub the employee bathroom while keeping an eye on the front, same routine. Well-dressed customers got overcharged. Trent always made it sound normal. "It's the premium treatment," he'd say. "That's just the luxury price." Harvey finally caught a moment alone with a teenage worker named Kayla near the break room. She looked nervous but curious. "You knew?" she asked. "Yeah, just started today." Kayla hesitated. "You okay?" He nodded. "Can I ask you something? That guy Trent, is he allowed to change prices like that?" Kayla shifted her weight. "I mean, Dustin lets him do whatever. They hang out after work. I don't say anything. I just vacuum. Harvey felt a knot tighten in his stomach. By the end of the day, he'd seen Trent overcharge at least 7 customers, but he wasn't ready to act yet. He needed proof. He needed to be sure. The next morning, Harvey came in early again. Dustin wasn't around yet, but Trent was already at the counter, sipping a coffee, scrolling his phone. Harvey walked past him toward the back when he heard a voice from behind. "Rick, right? You're the new guy." Harvey turned. "Yeah," Trent looked him over. "Don't get in my way today. We're short-staffed and I'm not babysitting." Harvey gave a small nod and kept walking. By noon, it happened again. A man in a suit drove up in a Range Rover. Trent smiled wide, leaned in. "Luxury detail, that's $95 today." Harvey walked over to help vacuum the interior. The customer was watching closely. "Sorry," the man asked, "is this the luxury package?" Harvey looked up. "Yes, sir, but it's usually $45, the man frowned. "He just charged me $95, Trent turned around fast. "Hey, Rick, mind your own job." Harvey stared at him. "I thought the prices were the same for everyone." Trent's face tightened. "That's not how it works here." Harvey saw red, but he kept quiet for now. He had what he needed. He'd seen it himself. Tomorrow he'd come back not as Rick, but as Harvey Stills. And this time, everyone would know exactly who owned the place. Harvey parked his Civic a block away from the location the next morning, changed out of his work clothes, and stepped into a tailored navy blazer. His assistant had already sent over the internal audit reports for the site. He hadn't reviewed them yet. He didn't need to. He'd seen everything with his own eyes. He walked through the front entrance just after opening. The cashier counter sat empty. Trent's voice came from the side bay, joking with someone out of view. Harvey stepped forward, scanning the lobby. The same cracked tile near the vending machine. The same flickering fluorescent overhead. No one had fixed it. Dustin appeared from the hallway, half lacing his boots. He looked up, hesitated. "Morning. Can I help you with something?" Dustin asked, voice cautious. Harvey didn't answer right away. He stepped forward, eyes on him. "You're Dustin, site manager." Dustin straightened. "That's right, and you are?" "Harvey Stills." Dustin blinked. "The owner of this company," Harvey said, his tone level. Dustin's mouth moved, but no words came out at first. I wasn't told you were coming today." That was the point. Trent walked into the lobby mid-laugh, then stopped cold. His eyes flicked up and down Harvey's suit. "Is this a visit or—" Harvey turned his head slowly. "Let's talk in the office." Inside the small back room, the walls were covered in outdated safety posters and laminated service charts. Dustin stood to the side, arms crossed. Trent leaned against a steel filing cabinet, chewing gum. Harvey shut the door behind him. "I spent the last 2 days working here under a different name. I saw how customers were treated. I saw how pricing was handled." Dustin looked confused. "Wait, you worked here?" "I was Rick. Boots, glasses, Civic out front. That was me." Trent's jaw shifted. "You were the new guy." "Seriously?" "Seriously," Harvey said. "And I kept track of everything." Trent snorted. "We're just trying to upsell. That's what this market wants. You think the guy in the Beamer cares about a few extra bucks?" Harvey stepped forward. He wasn't offered anything extra. "Neither were any of the others." Trent shrugged. "Maybe not every time, but you charged nearly double. You pocketed cash. I watched you do it." Dustin held up a hand. "Look, if there's been some confusion on pricing, we can sit down, pull the receipts." "No," Harvey said. "I don't need a spreadsheet to tell me what I saw." Trent laughed dryly. "So what? I'm getting fired because I know how to make sales." Harvey's voice dropped. "You're getting fired because you've been stealing from customers, from this business. And because you've made it normal for everyone else to look the other way." Trent's eyes narrowed. "You think I'm the only one who does it? Go ask around." "I already have," Harvey said. "You've built a culture where no one feels safe saying anything." Dustin stepped forward. "All right. Let's not turn this into a witch hunt. Trent's been here longer than anyone. He knows the numbers. We're short-staffed, under pressure, and that justifies fraud," Harvey asked. "No, but we've been trying to keep this place running." You've been trying to keep your friend comfortable, Harvey said. You let him rewrite the rules. Trent pushed off the cabinet. You want to throw me under the bus for doing what brings in money, go ahead. But don't pretend like you didn't build this company on hustle. Harvey's expression didn't change. This company was built on integrity, you don't know the difference. Trent scoffed, yanked off his name tag and dropped it on the desk. You won't last a week here without people like me. He walked out without another word. Dustin stayed silent. You knew, Harvey said. Dustin didn't deny it. I didn't ask questions. I figured if the numbers stayed good, it wasn't my business. Now it is, Harvey said. You're suspended. I'll decide if you're coming back. He turned and walked out. The rest of the staff had gathered near the vacuums. They'd heard something. They weren't sure what. Harvey stepped into the center of the wash bay. I'm Harvey Stills. I own this company. I've been undercover here the last 2 days, and I saw things that don't reflect what this place is supposed to be. No one moved. I saw people being overcharged. I saw employees afraid to speak up. That ends now. Kayla stood near the edge of the group, arms crossed tight against her chest. Her eyes didn't leave his. I want to hear your experiences. Not today, not in front of everyone, but I'll be here all week. I want to know what's been happening when no one's watching. Terrell wiped his hands on a towel. You really worked the line with us. I did. He nodded once, then went back to cleaning the interior of a waiting car. By the afternoon, Harvey had temporarily shut down the payment counter. He brought in a mobile register, handled charges himself. Customers were surprised to see a man in a blazer ringing them up, but no one complained. In the lull between cars, he pulled Kayla aside near the drying station. I know speaking up isn't easy, he said. She glanced toward the office. He always made it seem like we'd get in trouble if we said anything, or get fewer shifts. Not anymore. She hesitated. When I first started, I was told not to quote prices unless Trent approved, even when customers asked. Sometimes I'd get yelled at if I gave the wrong number. Harvey listened without interrupting. I just needed the job, she said, voice soft. I get it. He sent her back to work and made notes on a small notepad he kept in his jacket. Later, he sat with Terrell on a milk crate behind the wash bay. Steam rose from the concrete as water drained into the metal grates. You knew what was happening, Harvey said. Terrell nodded slowly. I did. Why didn't you say anything? No one would have listened. Not until now. Why'd you stay? Terrell brushed dirt off his pant leg. Because I know what this place used to be. I kept hoping it'd come back. Harvey looked out toward the parking lot. A mother was helping her toddler out of their SUV while a worker sprayed down the mats. A man waited by the vending machine, tapping his foot. I'm bringing it back, he said. Terrell stood. Then I'll stay. That evening, Harvey called his assistant and told her to schedule unannounced visits to every location over the next 2 months. He wanted no warning, no prep. Just him walking in. He didn't trust the reports anymore. He'd seen what people did when they thought no one was watching. Now they'd know someone always was, but more importantly, they'd know the person watching cared enough to show up. Harvey arrived before sunrise the next morning, this time in plain work clothes again. He didn't want the suit to build a wall between him and the team. Not today. The air still held a trace of dew, and the wash bay lights flickered on one by one as he unlocked the side entrance. He moved quietly, knowing the crew would trickle in soon, some not yet aware of what had happened the day before. By 6:45, Kayla came through the back gate, headphones looped around her neck. She paused when she saw him sweeping the concrete near the vacuum stalls. I thought you'd be gone after yesterday, she said. Harvey leaned on the broom handle. I said I'd be here all week. I meant it. She gave a short nod and headed inside without another word. By 7:30, the rest of the crew had arrived. Harvey noticed how they kept glancing toward the office, likely wondering if Dustin or Trent would show. Neither did. He had already handled that late the night before. Dustin was placed on indefinite leave pending a formal review. Trent's termination paperwork had been processed and sent. Neither would be coming back. Harvey gathered the team near the rinse station. No clipboard, no speech, just him standing in the early morning light. "I won't keep you long," he said. "I know you've got cars coming in soon. Just wanted to say we're not running this place on fear anymore. If someone pressures you to lie, cheat, or stay silent, I want to hear about it, directly. And if you've got ideas to improve things, I want those too." Terrell crossed his arms, eyes steady but unreadable. Kayla leaned against the wall, listening. A younger worker, Mateo, kept his hands in his hoodie pocket, shifting his weight like he wasn't sure how to stand. Harvey continued. "I'll be working alongside you the rest of the week. After that, we'll have someone new managing this site. But until then, I'm the one you bring everything to. Not a supervisor, not a district manager. Me." Mateo cleared his throat. "What happens when you leave? What if it just goes back to how it was?" Harvey didn't rush the answer. "It won't. Because I'm changing how we hire, how we promote, and how we check in. I'll explain more in time. But for now, just do the work the right way. We'll handle the rest." The first car rolled in 10 minutes later, a dusty red pickup with deep scratches along the side panel. Harvey joined Terrell on the rinse line, water blasting from the nozzle as they prepped the vehicle. They didn't talk much, but the silence didn't feel strained. It felt like two people doing honest work. Later in the morning, Harvey stepped into the office, now stripped of personal photos and clutter. He opened the desk drawer, pulled out the transaction journal, and flipped through pages of handwritten logs. Most were neat, some incomplete. He flagged the past 2 weeks for deeper review. A knock at the door broke his focus. Mateo stood in the doorway, holding a small binder. "I found this in the breakroom cabinet. It's got old training materials and some notes. I didn't know if it mattered." Harvey took the binder, flipping through printed schedules and laminated checklists. A few pages had scribbled margin notes, some marked with stars, others crossed out entirely. "This wasn't part of the training we got," Mateo added, "and I've only worked here 4 months." Harvey looked up. "Has anyone reviewed your performance since you started?" "Not really. I just got more hours after a couple people quit." "You ever been shown how to handle a customer complaint?" "No, I usually just wave Dustin over if someone gets mad." Harvey closed the binder. "All right. We're going to fix that." He spent the next hour drafting a new 3-week onboarding plan, using the materials from the binder as a foundation. Then he emailed his assistant and requested that the HR team revise the training protocols across all locations, starting here. After lunch, Harvey took over the drying line. A white Tesla pulled in. The driver stayed in the vehicle, scrolling on his phone. Terrell approached with fresh towels, but Harvey waved him off. "I got this one." He moved efficiently, drying the windows, mirrors, and roof. As he worked, he glanced toward the customer window. Kayla was handling the register now. He watched her read the screen, quote the correct amount, and offer a receipt with a smile. The driver nodded and drove off without a second look. When Harvey returned to the drying area, Kayla was already there, folding towels. "You were watching me." "I was. I did it right." "You did." She hesitated. "You're not going to start checking everyone like that all day, are you?" "No, but I want you to know I'm paying attention. Not to catch people failing, but to catch people doing it right." She tossed a towel into the bin. "That's not how it used to be." "I know." The afternoon brought new foot traffic. A delivery driver, a couple heading to a wedding, a woman with 2 barking dogs in the back seat. The team worked with more energy than the day before, but not because someone was barking orders. They moved faster because they were finally being seen. By 4:30, Harvey called a break. He brought out bottled water and sandwiches from the deli across the street. No announcement. Just left them on the breakroom table and stepped back. Mateo bit into a sandwich, glanced around. "You know, we've never had food brought in, not once, not even on holidays." Harvey leaned against the doorframe. "That'll change." Terrell looked up from his seat. "You planning to do this at every site?" Harvey nodded. "Starting Monday." Kayla raised an eyebrow. "All 15? 14. We closed the one in Westport last year." She nodded slowly. "Right, I forgot." After the break, Harvey made a quiet call to the HR director. He asked for a report on every current site manager, how long they'd been in place, when their last reviews occurred, and whether any anonymous complaints had been submitted in the past year. He kept his voice low, clear. "I don't want summaries," he said. "I want the raw notes." "Everything?" He ended the call and stepped back into the wash bay. The sun had started to dip, casting long shadows across the lot. As the final car of the day pulled away, Harvey turned to Mateo. "You know how to close out the register, sort of. I've seen Kayla do it. Let's do it together. You're learning it properly today." They walked back inside as the others wiped down tools and locked up equipment. The place was starting to feel less like a job site and more like a team again. When everything was done, Harvey lingered in the office alone. He looked around at the empty room, lit now by the soft amber hue of a single desk lamp. The silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. He pulled out a fresh notepad and began writing, not goals, not numbers, not projections. He wrote names: Kayla, Terrell, Mateo. He underlined each one. Then he added a fourth name, one he hadn't spoken all day but had been thinking about since the moment he stepped back into this place. Robert Stills. His father. He circled the name once, drew a line beneath it, and closed the notebook. Tomorrow, he'd start rebuilding the rest. On Monday, Harvey pulled into the lot of the Rose Park location just before opening. He left the engine running for a moment, watching the morning crew gather by the side entrance. Some leaned against the wall, sipping coffee from paper cups. Others spoke in low voices, keeping glances toward the front door. No one noticed him yet. This site hadn't drawn many formal complaints, but that didn't mean it was running clean. After what he'd uncovered the week before, he wasn't leaving anything to chance. He climbed out of the car, locked it, and walked straight in. A wiry man with a weather-worn face straightened as Harvey approached. He wore a name tag that read Site Manager. His expression flickered between confusion and calculation. "You're Harvey Stills?" "That's right." Illy nodded once and stepped aside to let him through the lobby. "Didn't know you were doing site visits. I didn't announce them." The room behind the front counter was cramped, with a corkboard cluttered with shift schedules and faded reward charts. A folding chair sat beside a crooked file cabinet. Harvey stayed standing. "I'm not here to observe from a distance," he said. "I'm here to work." Illy rubbed the back of his neck. "You want me to step aside?" "No, I want you to do your job. I'll be doing mine too. I'll be the one drying cars until further notice." Illy hesitated, then nodded and left the room. Harvey stepped into the main wash bay and got to work. The sky had turned overcast, which meant fewer cars, but the crew moved with steady rhythm. No one asked questions. No one challenged his presence. That was the problem. By mid-morning, he'd watched enough to see the pattern. No greetings at intake. No handoff between stations. One worker sprayed a vehicle as another was still vacuuming the back seat. There was no rhythm to the process, just a line of disconnected tasks, each done with the bare minimum of effort. Not out of laziness, but from lack of leadership. At noon, Harvey pulled one of the workers aside. A man in his early 40s with deep lines set into his forehead and grease under his nails. His name tag read Jonas. "How long you been here, Jonas?" "Since the second location opened." "So, 12 years. Harvey nodded. "You ever train new hires?" He shook his head. "Not anymore. Used to." Then management changed a few years back. They didn't want overlap, said I was slowing people down. "How'd that sit with you?" Jonas shrugged. "Didn't argue, just stopped offering." Harvey looked toward the wash line. "You think this crew's working well? They show up. They don't steal." "That's more than we could say a few years ago." "That's the bar now." Jonas gave a tired chuckle. "You asked." Harvey waved him back to work and walked the perimeter of the lot. There were things no spreadsheet could show. The way employees avoided eye contact with customers, how no one took initiative when equipment jammed, how the cashier never left the stool behind the register to help with anything. He took notes in a small pad he kept in his back pocket. One entry stood out. He circled it twice. "No one owns the outcome." That afternoon, he called in the regional maintenance lead and had him walk the site with him. Together they checked the chemical distribution settings, the water pressure on the rinse line, and the filter schedules on the vacuums. Half the systems were out of spec, not broken, just misaligned from months of neglect. "You sign off on this during quarterly inspections?" Harvey asked. The maintenance lead shifted uncomfortably. "I check what I can, but we're stretched thin, 3 guys covering 14 sites. That's changing. Starting next quarter, site-level staff will be trained to handle Tier 1 maintenance. You'll focus on complex issues only." The man nodded and jotted a few things down. Harvey didn't wait for a response. He made his way back to the office where Illy was reviewing a stack of invoices. "Got a minute?" Harvey asked. Illy looked up. "Sure. You've got a veteran on your crew who's never asked for a promotion, a cashier who doesn't leave her seat, a wash line that works like strangers in the dark. What's your plan to fix it?" Illy blinked. "We haven't had major problems. Numbers are steady. I'm not asking about your metrics. I'm asking about your leadership." Illy sat back. "I manage what's in front of me. If corporate wants more, they should have said something sooner." Harvey didn't raise his voice. "You've had 12 months, you never asked for revised training, never submitted a single employee development request. Never proposed a change in workflow. No one told me that was expected. You're a site manager. Initiative is expected." Illy's mouth tightened. "So what now? You'll be replaced within the week. You'll be paid through the end of the month. Your performance didn't violate policy, but it failed the standard." Illy didn't argue. He simply nodded, stood, and left the office. Harvey returned to the break area and found Jonas wiping down tools. He looked up as Harvey approached. "You ever considered managing this place?" Jonas blinked. "Me, you've seen how it should be run. You've stayed through the worst years. You're respected. I'm not a clipboard guy. I don't want a clipboard guy. I want someone who cares." Jonas looked down at his hands. "I got 3 kids. I can't afford to fail. You won't. You'll get training, support, and authority, but you'll be accountable." Jonas hesitated only a moment longer. "All right, I'll try." By the end of the week, Harvey had completed visits to 5 more locations. Each one revealed something different. One had a manager who'd quietly been covering extra shifts for her staff so they wouldn't lose hours. Another had a toxic culture of favoritism, where raises were whispered promises that never materialized. At one site, Harvey found a former mechanic working the vacuums. He had been demoted after clashing with a district lead, despite outperforming his peers. Harvey didn't give speeches. He gave orders, quiet ones, specific. He reassigned the mechanic to a technical supervisor role with back pay. He terminated the district lead who had falsified shift logs. He promoted the manager who took on extra shifts and raised her site's budget for part-time hires. He didn't do it for optics. He did it because the company had drifted away from what mattered. On Sunday evening, back at his home office, Harvey opened his laptop and drafted a company-wide memo. No fluff, no slogans. He outlined new hiring standards, a restructured training curriculum, and the appointment of 2 new regional integrity officers, Terrell, and the woman who had taken extra shifts without asking for recognition. Every manager would now be required to complete a quarterly ethics and operations review, reviewed directly by Harvey's office. Before sending the memo, he added one final line. Every customer, every car, every time fair, honest, and without prejudice. That's not a motto, that's the rule. He hit send. Then he closed his laptop, leaned back in his chair, and let the quiet settle, not the kind of quiet that came from avoidance, the kind that came when something was finally being set right.